ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरान्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। कूजन्तं राम रामेति मधुरं मधुराक्षरम् आरुह्य कविता शाखां वन्दे वाल्मीकिकोकिलम्। मनोजवं मारुततुल्यवेगं जितेन्द्रियं बुद्धिमतां वरिष्ठं वातात्मजं वानरयूथमुख्यं श्रीरामदूतं शिरसा नमामि। आपदामपहर्तारं दातारं सर्वसम्पदां लोकाभिरामं श्रीरामं भूयो भूयो नमाम्यहम्। दक्षिणे लक्ष्मणो यस्य वामे च जनकात्मजा पुरतो मारुतिर्यस्य तं वन्दे रघुनन्दनम्। Hare Krishna, welcome back. So we are continuing in Ayodhya Kanda, or chapter 46 onwards. So where we stopped last week is Ramachandra. This is the scene that Sri Ramachandra, Sita Devi, Lakshmana are being drawn on a chariot by Sumantra, while the residents of Ayodhya are somehow or the other following them and pleading them to stop, or somehow wanting to also move to the forest for 14 years with them. And Ramachandra is insisting Sumantra to continue, and they reach the Tamasa river, which is flowing across, as if stopping them from continuing their travels from there on. So that's where we ended or paused. And we're going to continue from there on. So chapter 46. So that night, Ramachandra, Sita Devi, Lakshmana, they wanted to rest on the banks of the Tamasa river. And Sri Ramachandra is contemplating on the plight of the residents of Ayodhya. He is very pensive or concerned about the plight of his parents. And in that mood, he remembers Bharata in a very deep and constant way, and thinks that actually Bharata is the only one who is fit to console Dasharath Maharaj and Kausalya. And then he turns to Lakshmana and he says, I want to thank you for coming along, because I by myself would not have been able to take care of Sita. So your being here is very, very special for me, and I'm very particularly grateful. Of course, the Supreme Lord doesn't need anyone, but this is how he becomes grateful to his devotees for rendering any service. What to speak of some service of this caliber and this magnitude that Lakshmana is offering. And so even the Supreme Lord feels, oh, by myself I may not have been able to take care of all that I have to do and protect Sita. So I'm very, very grateful that you are, I thank you that you are here along with me. And then Ramachandra says, when I look around, I can tell that there are ample fruits and roots available. But for tonight, I only want to drink water and go to bed. Then he instructs Sumanta, please take care of the horses nicely. So Sumantra feeds the horses, lets them rest, and let them graze here and there, and let them rest for the night. So while Ramachandra is watching, Sumantra and Lakshmana bring fresh, soft leaves from the trees around and lay down as a bed for Ramachandra and Sita Devi. And as Ramachandra and Sita Devi lay down, Lakshmana and Sumantra stand a little to the side and they are standing guard, and they spend the entire night with Lakshmana discussing or describing the glories of Ramachandra, and Sumantra very attentively listening on. Both of them don't go to sleep at all. As the night passes in Ram Katha, I mean, I can only imagine, or anyone can imagine, if Lakshmana himself is narrating what the glories of Ramachandra might be, what it must be. This is like, said Lord Nityananda, taking Jiva Goswami on a personal tour through Navadvip and describing all the pastimes and glories of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They're the same persons, whether it is Krishna Balaram, the Gauranitai, or Rama Lakshmana. The Nityananda is very wonderfully describing to Jiva Goswami the super excellent pastimes of Lord Chaitanya. So when Ramachandra wakes up the next morning before sunrise, particularly the Brahmi Muhurtam, or what we call the Brahma Muhurta time, he sees that Lakshmana and Sumantra are there, and all the other residents of Ayodhya who had followed him are all sleeping under different trees and sort of scattered all around that forested area. And so Sri Ramachandra tells Lakshmana and Sumantra, look, they've been following us from Ayodhya, and there is no possibility that they're going to return home ever. I cannot afford to have all of them in Ayodhya, because that's not what I was told. I was told to live alone in the forest. So the best thing to do is to leave right away before they wake up. Because if I wake them up and bid them farewell, the distress in their heart will be very, very severe. And I cannot see that. It's too much to bear. So while they are sleeping, I think we should move on quickly. He turned to Sumantra and ordered him, do one thing, take the chariot and ride it in the northerly direction. So as you ride up north, the chariot will make wheel marks on the ground. And then you ride the chariot back, exactly tracing your path back. So that way, when the residents of Ayodhya will wake up and they will want to know where we have gone, somebody in them will be saying, let's follow the tracks, and the tracks will take them northward up to a point, and then the tracks will vanish. So they wouldn't know which direction we have gone in. And saying that, Sumantra, while Ramachandra, Lakshmana are busy packing up for the travel, Sumantra quickly rides his chariot as he was told and comes back, exactly executing how Ramachandra had ordered him. So that ends chapter 46. Then in chapter 47, the residents slowly wake up. Usually the Lord wakes up before the devotees, seems like. And so the residents wake up and they look here and there, and Ramachandra is gone. So they are just in this frenzy, and they have a sense of surprise or shock, and they have this deep pain in the heart. They're just very torn by separation. And so they start asking, see, Ramachandra is like this kind father to us. So how can he just abandon us this way? And in their frenzy of separation, they become almost like mad people. And in that state of being, They don't know what to do. The only solution that they can see is to give up their lives right there. They say, what is the use of living? What is the use of continuing to live like this, where we are unable to uh, have the vision of Ramachandra? So they look around, somebody suggests, see, this forested area is full of dry wood that is ample enough to create a fire for every one of us, and we can all jump into the fire and immolate ourselves. Someone says, or other option is we can just keep walking north from here, reach the Himalayas, and just become renunciates and not care about our own body and life. Someone says, yeah, I think that's a good idea, because when we go back to Ayodhya like this, our families and friends and everyone is going to ask us, how could you lose Ramachandra like this? What happened? And if Ramachandra is not there, then why have you even come back home? Like with what dignity have you even come back home? Uh, what is the point? So none of our family members will want to dwell in the same house with us. And they'll say, and someone else said, what about the women, the children, and the elderly? They will have no rejoice or cheer in their life when we tell them that, oh, we don't know where Ramachandra left. And so all of them lifted their arms in the air and loudly cried and lamented, just as cows would cry and lament when their calves have been taken away. So although here they're crying like the cows, they're actually the calves where the cow has left them. So they try following those tracks. Someone said, oh, there are some tracks here, let's follow. And exactly as planned, beyond a point, there were no tracks to follow because the track had ended and Sumantra had come back. So in this complete despair and in complete frustration, they went back to Ayodhya because they had no other choice. They didn't know where Ramachandra had gone. And when they returned to Ayodhya, Ayodhya seemed to be like a desert. There's nothing going on there. Usually there was always music, festivity, and right now Ayodhya seemed desolate, completely abandoned. People were not cooking, people were not eating, people's faces were all long and sullen. They were constantly crying. The Brahmanas were not reciting their mantras. The Kshatriyas were just not alert and vigilant, and what they were supposed to do. The farmers did not go to till their land and take care of their crops. The cows did not take care of their calves. The whole of Ayodhya was just in a complete state of uh, ruin and love. And so Valmiki Rishi gives three analogies to give us an idea of how Ayodhya was, how desolate Ayodhya was. He says it was like a river from which Garuda had taken away all the snakes. So the river had no character. It was just water without anything else in it. Or like the sky without a moon. It was dark. The sky is beautiful when there is moon that is shining in the sky. Or a sea without any water. Many of us during Yatra time, or if you have visited India, certain times of the year, the rivers are full. So right after monsoon season, and during monsoon and right after, the rivers are full. But if you go during summertime, the rivers hardly have any water. A couple of years ago, we went to Sri Rangam. So Sri Rangam is sort of a small island where the river Kaveri flows on both sides. That's why it's an island. So when you go after monsoon, the river is full. You can actually sense how wide the river is. But if you go during summertime or a little before summer, of course, in India, summer sets by March and April, sets in. So you can hardly see any water. All you see is dry riverbed that people are just walking here and there, and you can't even tell that there was such a massive, beautiful river flowing there. So imagine like a sea without water, just sand and desolate. So with that description, chapter 48 ends. No, 47 ends. Then 48, uh, when these persons have returned to Ayodhya, the wives, or the women folk in every household, begin to chastise their husbands. They reproach them, saying, "What is the reason that you have come back home? With what dignity have you come back home? Actually, you should not have even come back. What is the point?" And these women, they express their anguish in a very, very sweet way. So I'm going to share with you one slide, one verse, and there are many other points, but they begin with this one. This is the seventh verse in chapter 48. So let me see if I can share my screen. Yamuna Jivna, can you facilitate, or it says host as disabled. All right, I guess I can't show the screen.
Just one second.
There you go. Thank you. Okay, let's see. Okay, so this is the verse. This is verse number 7. They say, Kim nu tesham gruhai karyam kim darai kim dhanenava putrerva kim sukhairva api yena pashyanti raghavam. So we'll start at the end of the verse and discuss it. So they say, Yena pashyanti raghavam. For those who cannot see Ramachandra, for such persons, kim nu, certainly, what value for them, tesham, grihai. What is the use of having a house or a place of shelter? What is the use of having single family home or town home, apartment or condo, whatever it is? What is the use of it? Karyam kim. What is the purpose of going to work or doing anything, whether it's household work or office work or this work or that work? What's the purpose of doing any work? Kim. Darai, what's the use of having a wife or a family if a person has not seen Ramachandra? Kim Dhanenava, or what's the use of having any wealth? Is all unnecessary sense gratification or burden. Putrairva, what is the use of having children? Sukhairva api, and what is the use of so-called happiness in the world? Yena pashyanti raghavam. Very beautiful verse. This has many different angles of view. So one is, if one does not have Ramachandra in one's life, then none of these things have any meaning, or none of these things can provide long-lasting bliss or happiness, whether it is the shelter of a house or the security of a job or the pleasure of the companionship of a wife or a spouse, or whether one has the sense of achievement in wealth, or the wealth of children, yeah, or any sort of happiness has no meaning. So that's one. Another meaning is, if one has Ramachandra, then one doesn't need all these things. Of course, we all need these things in a way to perform our services. So don't take it the wrong way. What it means is, these things only become very simple facilitators of a grander purpose. For most persons, otherwise, these things become the purpose. So people get confused between facility and achievement. Most people consider these things to be achievements, when these are only facilities for a greater achievement, and that greater achievement is Pashyanti Raghavam. One should be able to utilize those facilities to be able to see Ramachandra. And the other side of the corollary meaning is that one who gets completely absorbed in these things cannot see Ramachandra. So there are different views and angles of this. So then they continue chastising or reproaching their family members. So then next they say, actually, we are very, very unfortunate that Ramachandra has left us. I'll tell you who the really fortunate people are. So these women say, fortunate are the rivers, the lotus ponds, and the lakes in which Ramachandra will be bathing. They're very fortunate because they will be so close to him. In fact, the rivers and the ponds and the lakes will all touch him, touch his very beautiful transcendental body. And the forests are very, very fortunate because they're lined with trees. They have these tracts of land, and the mountain peaks. They will all receive him just as one receives a guest with great pleasure and service attitude. Atithi Devo Bhava is something that we have heard. Atithi means one who comes unannounced. So Ramachandra has come to the forest unannounced, and all these entities in the forest, especially the forest, the tracts of land, the mountain peaks, they will all joyfully receive Ramachandra. And the reception is that they will bloom much more than they would usually and offer great pleasures to Ramachandra. They say that the waterfall, the trees, etc., will rejoice Ramachandra. They will pour water and do abhishek for him. The trees will be like umbrellas giving him shade. And as far as we are concerned, we are in this condition. We will never become Kaikeyi's servants, come what may. She is the one who she has been abandoned or shunned by her own husband and her son. We are very sure that's what Bharata will also do. So, since you have come back without Ramachandra, what is the use of living for all of us? Better to drink poison and give up our lives than to live under Kaikeyi's rule. The way we have been left here is the way cattle is left at the hands of a butcher, because Kaikeyi is a heartless butcher or butcheress, or however you want to say it, a butcher. So with this lamentation, poetically, Valmiki Muni says, the sun set on Ayodhya. But that Ayodhya was already dark with lamentation. So when we say the rising of a sun, we equate that as the analogy of the hope, hope giving, where that there is hope for us to look forward to. But when the sun sets and darkness sets in, that it says that hope is gone for that day. But their hope of the sun setting means the scion of the most wonderful personality in the Sun dynasty is now disappeared from our vision, and so our life is filled with darkness, the darkness of lamentation. That's how chapter 48 ends. Then chapter 49, Ramachandra on his chariot, as they are crossing, they come to a river called Vedashruti. And this Vedashruti is flows across the Koshala kingdom And as they are going through this sacred river, Veda Shruti, they feel very pleased to see the river and they're continuing forward. As soon as they cross the river, on the right hand side are the residential quarters of Agastya Muni. They remember Agastya Muni and they continue on. And as they continue on further south, they come to the banks of the Gomati River. And as the name suggests, Gomati, her banks are filled with herds of cows. It's a very pleasing, beautiful sight. Then they continue on further south and they reach the holy river of Syandika, Syandika, Syandika. And the Syandika river is very pleasing because her banks are filled with howling peacocks and swans. Some of us are on the japa call, and in the mornings, the sounds of Vrindavan, there are these parrots and peacocks that loudly howl. And that's the reminder, oh, I'm in the Vraja area. So similarly here, the banks of the Syandika river was filled with peacocks and swans. So as soon as they crossed this river Syandika, Ramachandra told Sita Devi, we have crossed border of the Koshala capital or the Koshala kingdom. And now we are entering uh, the initial area from where the Dandaka forest is not too far. So as soon as they crossed the Syandika river, Sri Ramachandra turned back and looked at Ayodhya city, offered his obeisances and respects, and reminded Sita Devi that this Ayodhya was particularly created by Manu. And it was such a fantastic creation. And he was very, very happy and pleased with King Ikshwaku and gave it to him as a gift and asked him to rule and made sure that all of Ikshwaku's descendants will rule over Ayodhya. And Ramachandra then offered his prayers to Ayodhya that, oh, wonderful city of Ayodhya, I am now leaving for 14 years, and I seek your blessings that I may be protected and that I return soon back into your holy presence. Okay, saying that, Ramachandra, Sita Devi, Lakshmana, and Sumantra headed further south towards the bank of the Ganges, and that's where chapter 49 ends. Now we're going to pause here because once they cross the river Ganges, they will meet Guha and Guha's entourage, and there's wonderful exchanges. So I'm going to pause here for a reason. One, I don't want to start Guha's story. Second, I noticed that generally when we do Q&A, we go much beyond my promised 11 o'clock. It's almost 11:15, sometimes 11:20, 11:30. And for different people, they have different commitments. And my original was that we'll meet for an hour. And sometimes I do get carried away because it is very hard for me, unfortunately, to rein in, especially in certain chapters when there is a flow and there's so many things to identify. So today I'm going to pause early and see if anyone has any questions or comments or meditations from what we have been discussing thus far, something we discussed today, last week, or before. Any questions or comments, then we have a full half hour without any worry on my side that we are going over. So fire away if you like. Mahati, you had a question?
Yes, Prabhuji. Um, So I was thinking Ramachandra was asking for protection. So I was trying to understand. He's the one who protects and he's asking for protection.
Yeah, please understand, and somehow he's playing the role of a human being. Mahatmanam Manusham Manye. So he's teaching us that no human being should become arrogant and think that they don't need the wishes, blessings, protection from different entities, that the holy places need to protect us. Our services, our friends, our seniors, the deities, we all need blessings from everybody and anybody. So he's playing the role of a human being. So let that not clash over time. That, oh, he's the supreme lord. It's please understand, when he does and says things, from which side of things happen. Okay,
Yes, Prabhuji.
as a human being, he's just playing. He's being very humble. That's who Ramachandra is. His humility is extremely disarming, and he always speaks with a smile first. Mhm.
Yes, Prabhuji. And I was also thinking Bharata Maharaj getting all this negativity from all the Ayodhya Vasis. I was thinking it must be very painful for him.
Well, this is not yet. Now you'll see so much more. Everybody he meets will doubt him. So that's coming up.
Yes, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare
This
Krishna.
this Kirti here. Um,
Ah,
is there a reason why um, Ramachandra and Lakshmana they did not stop at Agastya's sage Agastya's ashram, whereas later they do stop at sage Bharadwaja's ashram?
correct. And then they will also meet Agastya later in the Ramayana, and on the way back, then Agastya comes in the Uttarakanda, and in fact, it's Agastya Muni speaking the first 60 chapters of Uttarakanda, where he has come for the Abhishek, and it's called Pattabhishekam, or the coronation of Ramachandra. And in the assembly, he narrates the entire history of Ravana, the entire history of Hanuman to Ramachandra. So right now, their goal is to cross and enter Dandaka. That's where they're heading.
Prabhuji, can I ask one more question?
Yeah.
Um, like I was reading Bhagavatam there, I heard when Krishna disappears from this planet, Pandavas, Yudhishthira, and all they try to go to forest and give up their life with Queen Kunti. So I was wondering how many years after Krishna left, this disappeared from the planet, they left, they went to give up their life. And
Uh,
from what I was,
I don't know.
so I mean, in one way, we were taught that like we should continue use this body in serving. So why I was wondering why they gave up their life in, and they would have continued serving. But yeah, I cannot question them. But I was just wondering.
So we cannot question them, but we're questioning them, right? Um, so Yudhishthir Maharaj and all that left, partly of separation, but partly also that they knew that their time and their service was over. So it says the Pandavas retire. That's the chapter 15. So they've done what they needed to do. They did the services Krishna asked them to do, and now they responsibly gave the kingdom to Parikshit Maharaj. And then instead of interfering in what Parikshit Maharaj was doing, they quietly left.
Okay, Prabhuji. So they finished
Yeah.
service.
So the second part is, yeah, we are told to continue our body and service. Yeah, because uh, and on a sadhaka level, our sense of attachment may be sentimental. To say, oh, I don't know how I'm supposed to continue living without Krishna or Ramachandra. These people's love is the highest form of love. So Narottam Das Thakur says, Pashane Kutibo Madha, I'm going to bang my head against a rock. That is Narottam Das Thakur speaking. Anale Pashibo, I'm going to jump into fire. Because the fire of separation is too intense to handle. But the interesting thing is, none of them did any of those things. They wrote out their emotions in songs and words, but they didn't jump into fire and do those things.
Yeah, thank you so much, Guruji. That's very
You're
helpful.
welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna.
Prabhu, would your answer be the same? Like I had like something similar in my mind that like you narrated that when Lord Ramachandra left, all these people they stopped working and to that effect. That's my thinking that I mean we are instructed to take shelter in the instruction, and even if we are feeling separation, we cannot stop our prescribed duties because they are also sort of worship to the Supreme Lord. So I was also getting like a little bit confused at how they could just stop doing everything.
Yeah, that is the power of love. And I can't explain more than that because I don't have it. But that's what their love for Ramachandra is. It's so intense that, when Prahlad was young, we used to have this song. Uh, I can't remember that song. It says, when Krishna lifted the Govardhan hill, we are not hungry, we are not thirsty, we don't even want to sleep, something like that. So hunger, thirst, and all that are for persons in a bodily conception of life. These persons are way beyond all of that. So for them, their attention is not into those things. When Ramachandra is there, all their belongings have a purpose. That's the point. That without Ramachandra, those belongings don't have a purpose. The same sentiment, Bhaktivinoda Thakur writes, Manasa Deha Geha Jokichu Mora Arpinu Tuakade Nanda Kishora. Same purpose of Sharanagati that he's talking about is whatever I have, Manasa, that's my mind, Deha, this body, Geha, my house, Jokichu Mora, whatever I think of as mine, I'm offering to you. That means you are more important than these things. Now, when a practicing devotee tries to apply this verse, usually they cause a lot of problems. That they become neglectful, they become lazy, or not alert to the needs or their duties that they have. These are people way up there.
My just main clarification was Lord would be more happy, right, if we keep engaged in our like duties.
Correct. That is for us. But those who are beyond bodily conception, for them, there is nothing in this world to do. Just the way the Lord doesn't have anything to do in this world, they don't have. So the idea is that one goes beyond uh, those uh, those things. Here we are supposed to perform our duties as a means of purification. But those who are purified may or may not. The
Right.
residents of Vrindavan did not do anything. They were just there, like statues. Nanda Maharaj, Mother Yashoda, they were all just statues waiting at the banks of the river Yamuna, didn't know what to do. They were all just there.
Yeah. Yes, to go. Thank you.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu.
Hi, Haribol.
Prabhu, did you find any parallels between the residents of Ayodhya, their lamentation, and the lamentation of the gopis when Krishna vanished?
I
During
did, I was I did not look for any parallels. So I didn't find, no.
Okay.
The rasa is very different.
Thank you.
Yes, Shamakun. Anything from your side?
Prabhu, I just felt like appreciating one point you said, that there are facilities in our life and there are accomplishments that we actually need to be bothered about. And we flip it around. It was very touching when you said, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is Sachisuta Das.
Haribo.
Prabhu, I have a question, very practical question. Some of one of my friend was asking about the suicidal thoughts, the depression leading to suicidal thoughts, and some people are even acting even after some sort of a spiritual practice. So, could you please help me to elaborate the depression the Ayodhya Vasis face, and compared to people depression, facing the depression and leading to some suicidal in general, like what is the impact of somebody getting into suicidal, and could you please elaborate on that topic, please?
Yeah, I don't know all the reasons why people are suicidal, but one or two things that it boils down to is pain, and the pain or the agony it becomes unbearable. It becomes unbearable to continue living on with that pain, whatever is the reason for that pain. Of course, all pain is sourced from or comes from a lack of experience of love. Wherever there's no pain, wherever there's no love, it usually manifests as pain, and that pain is symptomized as whatever people's anger and frustration and delusion and depression, whatever that is. So from a materialistic perspective, suicidal thoughts and attempts are from the forgetfulness of the relationship with the Supreme Lord. On a spiritual sense, the attachment to Krishna or Ramachandra, the intensity of it, this is a demonstration of the intensity of it, that without the manifest presence of the Lord, the persons don't know what their life has meaning for, what else. So without service, what other meaning does my life have? And they, like in all situations, Prabhupada writes in a different context, but it's applicable here, that if you have a materialist and a devotee standing next to each other, you can't tell the difference in the way, let's say, they work or the way they behave themselves. You can't tell the difference, because a materialist may be very dedicated to his or her work, and so is the devotee. So what meets the eye is not the distinction. What is the distinction is the state of the heart. The materialist is very dedicated because either they're dedicated to the work itself or the outcome of that work, money and fame or whatever. And for the devotee, they are very, very determined and good at what they are doing, is because their attraction and attachment is the pleasure of the Lord in executing their duties. So for externally, they look the same. So Prabhupada says that externally, the materialist is also eating and the devotee is also eating. In fact, the devotee eats much better. I mean, after coming to Prabhupada's movement, my gosh, the amount of cakes and sweets and samosas and pizzas that we have been eating, I never ate like that before, that in one sense. Because some festival or the other all the time. So in fact, a devotee if you look at it very critically, it eats better in one sense. But the act of eating is the same. They're eating the same foods or similar foods, of course, barring meat and all that, but food. Yet the food acts very differently. For the materialist, it's sense gratification. For the devotee, it is sense gratification and Krishna's gratification. That component is also there. Because I'll be lying if I said I only ate for Krishna's. I only ate for Krishna's service. So sense gratification is also there. But it's the joy is that it's been offered to Krishna. So like that. So it looks similar, but not similar. So when these great devotees like Narottam Das Thakur or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, who's in the later part of Chaitanya Charitamrita, every day is running away from Gambira, although the doors are locked from the outside. He's found in the ocean one day. Second day, his body is transformed into this lump. Third day, you find him scratching the floor with his fingernails and constantly crying. All symptoms of madness in one sense, but that madness of love for Krishna looks very different. Another is on a material platform, suicide comes from weakness of heart. These these great devotees are expressing these from not a weak heart, from a very strong heart. These are spiritual emotions. Those are material emotions. But both manifest through a material body, so they look similar.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Now, practicing devotees can experience the actual depression, and there's not one case, many cases. But the problem with is that devotees tend to hide their depression because of the embarrassment that, oh, you're a devotee of Krishna, how can you have mental illness? So it is very nicely hidden, or intentionally hidden, or not shared, and that is far more dangerous. So anyone who feels lonely or sad or depressed or whatever, rather than hiding it, find at least one person in which you can confide completely, or take some help from professionals, and somehow or the other address it, not ignore it. Very important. Very important.
Prabhu, may I just add something here?
Yeah, why you need my permission?
Prabhu, just in answer to the question, or in another perspective from not exactly a Shastric reference, but there are certain texts which deal with both astrology as well as Ayurveda, which have also spoken about this depression, or what is called as unmada, or mental
Yes.
illness. And they give a very interesting, they categorize different kinds of unmada, but and there are various categories, etc. Just two things stand out here. One of the categories is, if somebody is, like, say, irregular in his or her habits, or prone to too much sense gratification, or basically leading a life in which they are not true to their own selves, that for example, if a person has some sensual desires but he's suppressing it, etc., that also supposedly leads to the madness. And the second is
Oh,
aparad, like Vaishnava aparad, or vilification of elders or senior persons, also leads to this. That is from those
sure.
texts. So more than thinking about others, I felt this is useful in our own life to keep us sane. We have to follow that.
Mad elephant offense ends up as madness. Hey, I'm going to read something. I've been reading a book. Uh, but I'm going to read a couple of lines from it. Just give me 1 second. I think it's important for me to say it here. Okay, don't ask me which book because I'm not going to tell you. But I will read something for you. This caught my attention. Give me 1 second. All right, you ready? The number one killer in the world today is neither cancer nor heart disease. It is repression. And please think chapter 2, text number 59, where Krishna says, what is the use of repression? It is repression. Unconsciousness is the real danger, and neurosis is the hidden killer. So his author is writing, in my decades of practice, I have become increasingly convinced of this fact. Repression, a stealthy, hidden, intangible force, strikes many of us down. It does so in so many disguised forms, cancer, diabetes, colitis, that we never see it naked for what it is. That is its nature, diabolic, complex, recondite. It is all pervasive, yet everywhere denied because its mechanism is to hide the truth. Denial is the inevitable consequence of its structure. There is almost no disease, mental or physical, without repression. One of the ways we know the truth of this statement is through the reversing disease by leading patients to their pain and lifting the lid of repression. Okay. And there are more things, but very, very fascinating. Repression means to not address what is being experienced. Yes, exactly. Someone knows which book it is. Great. All right, let's go from this to some other question. Anything else?
Sorry, I had
Yeah.
some. What you read just now only.
I can't hear what you're saying. So say it again.
Regarding what you read just now about repression. So I wanted to ask, what does actually it mean in the life of a devotee? Because we already have certain rules and regulations, right? And at point in time, I personally speaking, I feel that they are beneficial for me. So it could be the case that I used to like eating certain things, but I may still like them, but I'm not having them. So is it repression, or I mean, how that repression looks like in a devotee's life? I want to understand that.
Okay, let me read more now that you've. So this is primarily, I'm sorry if changing gears, this is about parenting, of to how, where the repression originally begins. It begins from lack of experience of love. So I'm going to read a little, so hopefully you can. So he calls this the primal pain. Okay. Primal pains arise not only from this lack of love, but from those epiphanic moments or scenes when a child realizes he is not loved and will not be. So what makes a child not feel loved? That the parents are not satisfied or happy with what the child or who the child is. They have this expectation that the child should be someone else than who they are. Okay. So they arise when he is shaken for a brief and forgotten moment by the understanding that he cannot be what he is and be loved. For that moment and for other moments of equally monumental hopelessness, he then struggles with all of his heart to be what the parents want him to be. He puts away the pain, or rather, it is automatically put away from him by our miraculous system of repression. This repression effectively produces two selves at war with each other. The real self, loaded with needs and pain, and the unreal self, the self out of touch with the other self that was still able to deal with the outside world. The function of the unreal self is to keep the real self from showing its face. Its role is to make the body perform despite the turmoil going on below. The best way to do this, it seems, for the unreal self to remain ignorant of its own history. That is why I think neurotics are ahistoric beings. They have been robbed of their past by pain. So you making a choice of not eating or drinking something that you liked is a choice because you may have a higher taste. But for many persons, there is this sense of embarrassment. There is a judgment by the community. Oh, you're still drinking coffee. Oh, you're still illicit sex, whatever. And so people hide it. Although the Krishna says that the desires are very, very strong in the heart, persons will hide it and repress it and speak and talk and behave, speak and talk at the same, speak and behave and live in a way that nobody ever comes to know that inside all these needs that they have are being unmet. Of course, sex is debatable in terms of, but there is the need for love and all that that starts way back in childhood. Now that is repression, because devotees or anyone cannot be honest with others that this is how I am or this is where I am, because their fear of judgment, there is fear of not being understood, there is the sense of, oh really, after so many years you're still like this. This is very, very tough for people to deal with it, and especially children, whether they're young adults or teenagers or early teenagers or young, when they feel that they are not being loved or they cannot experience the love of their parents, this all begins there. That is repression, Amara, Mataji.
Right. So just a quick follow-up, Prabhu. Is it okay? 2 minutes are left.
It depends what you're going to ask.
So, you read from the book. Well, I didn't understand everything because they are like very not high terminologies for me. I will need a big purport for that. But I was thinking, Prabhu, that what you read, that unreal self actually hides the real self. So, like if somebody gets into that habit of hiding their real self, and unreal self is always manifesting, say for example, and they just get into this lifestyle and they are perfectly settled into it, that
Everyone is, yes.
right. So how would they ever know that they are repressing themselves?
Yeah, and that's where this guy is writing that they know, everyone knows the pain and the sadness they're experiencing. Only thing is anyone else around cannot know, and they will not let anyone know it.
So you mean
But
everyone is repressing themselves?
Well, I don't know everyone. I don't know every living being, but it says they arise from a lack of love. When a child realizes he or she is not loved and will not be. So every child has an experience somewhere or the other where the love that they deserve is not being given, or it is given in a very conditional way, or the parents say, "Why can't you be like this? Why can't you be like that?" This is where their real self hides, and the unreal self just does things in the world because things need to get done. Okay, we've entered parenting from Ramayana, but this is important.
Yes, Prabhu. Thank you so much.
All right, any other questions, comments? Not about depression or that anything about Ramachandra or the residents of Ayodhya? All right, nothing else, then hey.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, please accept my humble obeisances.
Haribol. How are you doing?
Little better, Prabhu.
Okay, good.
Prabhuji, one quick thing, can I?
Yeah, go ahead.
Prabhuji, life always seems to be in one way to look at is one or the other problems. So sometimes I feel when looking at Rama's life, different Acharya's life, they have gone through so many problems which are even unparalleled to what in personally myself what go through. So is it the right way to think when the Lord himself, when he descended, he has gone through so many problems from mundane point of view, my point of view. Say Rama is a Lord himself, but he has to go through the exile and so many things. So who am I complaining about my problems? Is it a right way to think like that?
It depends on the level of advancement. To say who am I or what is my problem is too small. Depends on whether it's coming from a healthy frame of mind or not a healthy frame of mind. But the real lesson is the Lord doesn't go through difficulty unless he manifests as a human pastime. Okay. And what Ramachandra, particularly because we're discussing Ramayana, teaches us is every human being will have some challenge or the other in the material world. And the shelter to face and address these problems is not that the problems will go away. It is how one deals with the problems. And so how one deals is with the strength of character. And in Ramachandra's case, it is Satya, the quality of truthfulness. Under all circumstances, despite of what difficulty, he will not budge from that. And for different persons, we have been given dharma as the way and means that protects us as we traverse through this very treacherous material world, which is full of problems. So dharma is our shelter. And for dharma, one needs to know what is scripture and one wants to live by that scripture. When one lives by that scripture, then the ability to become immune to the problem is greater. That is the lesson. Immunity. And so in Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says, Padma Patram Evam Bhasa, like a lotus leaf in water. It resides in the water but is untouched by it. So we have to create this immunity. We have to develop the immunity against the onslaught of matter. So we have been given sadhana bhakti, do's and don'ts, like Amara was saying, the do's and don'ts, the chanting of the holy name, the worship of the deity, taking shelter of Krishna's strength and Krishna's presence, or Ramachandra's strength and presence, the association of the devotees. Then yes, otherwise it's tough. Many persons think that I have to traverse this material world and face all these problems all by myself. I cannot tell anyone. In fact, nobody has the time to sit and discuss others' problems, but it feels like that because somewhere some neophyte tendency of judgment and discussion or gossiping. So we find ourselves sometimes in an environment where trusting others is not easy, or our trust has been broken, unfortunately, or we feel judged by others, and this all of this adds to the problems that we already have. So sometimes, or in many cases that I've noticed with devotees, even being in the family of devotees sometimes is more difficult than being here and there. But that is an indicator that somewhere our application and some things are need to be readjusted.
Thank you very much, Prabhu.
You're welcome. All right, let's.
Hare Krishna, Prabhu. This is
Hey,
Prabhupada.
yeah, Haribol.
So on this topic of repression, I know it's a big topic. I just wanted to. I don't know whether I'm formulating the question even properly, but what would be the limit of acceptance on behalf of a parent, especially like when we are living in a very sort of abnormal society where there are so many weird things happening. Like, for example, in my office, somebody who was a male decided to become a female. And so these kind of situations when happen, so people start thinking that there is an option for me to even consider these varieties of weird things that are going on, and then they expand their desires into those territories. And so now as a parent, obviously, like, we would have to keep on drawing probably fences to protect the child from having those kind of desires. Otherwise, they will also get into the region of repression, because clearly there is a value system at work which would be conflicting from the desire standpoint. So I'm just trying to understand, like, what would be the limit of acceptance when we are living in a society which will keep on giving different opportunities to expand desires in different directions.
I think we need to sort through it.
Okay.
First is the society is not giving room for desires. The society is giving room for people to be accommodated. Some people may feel it's extreme or excess. Some people may feel it's not enough. And that debate will continue. What's more important of repression is first one should take care of one's own repression. That's what Krishna says. Develop a higher taste. Because what does repression do? He says. So whatever is the repression, the one way to address one's own repression is to live truthfully or in integrity with oneself, to live and speak honestly. Here are my limitations. This is what and that's okay. But the issue is the sense of real or perceived judgment by others. So when a person starts living more honestly, then their children will also learn to live more honestly. That's one. Second, I specifically read about how this repression begins way back when in childhood, in many cases, where the child doesn't feel loved. So it's not about desires. Desires anyone can have, and most people know that all of one's desires cannot be fulfilled. That everyone knows. But in the process of not fulfilling a child's desire, how it is conveyed or how the child is made to feel is an important aspect. Or how the child is treated or not judged or encouraged for who they are is important. It's a very, very important role a parent needs to play. And you cannot draw fences all the time, because the only way of drawing a fence would be like the sage Vibhandaka, who put Rishyashringa on an island and didn't allow any woman to show up. But guess what? The only way Rishyashringa was captured is by women only. So in Vibhandaka's story, it shows the limitation of artificially isolating the child from the reality of the world, or reality of life. That also doesn't mean, because we think in binary, we just throw the child out there somewhere and say, live it, figure it out on your own. The parent plays the healthy gatekeeper of what's okay, what's not okay, and what it means for to educate the child on what it means of how other people are finding it difficult, even in a topic like gender, how they're finding it difficult to find what their gender is. So talking and discussing it is not dangerous. It's okay. It doesn't necessarily put ideas into the child. Oh, I can also, because just putting an idea doesn't work unless the desire from within is there for the person. You see so many ads for alcohol. It doesn't mean because you saw the ad, you will go. It's only when there is the kutam, the desire within, one will do it. Or drugs, or whatever. I don't know if I understood the answer because I kept on talking. Paramarupa?
Yeah, your answer was perfect. I drew 2 points out. One is the parents themselves need to live a life of self-honesty that will get kind of communicated to the child unknowingly. And then secondly, your point about how we communicate to the child about the boundaries and all that plays a key role. Now, of course, that's where probably the whole finesse is, and that's a part of the journey of the parent to come to a good level of non-violent communication.
That's the $1 million problem to deal with.
Yeah. But I'm satisfied with the answer. Thank you.
Okay. So there's Amara wrote something, and I don't want to leave it open. I was still wondering how one will know that they are repressing their desires if they are so wired in their unreal self. But the real self is also there, and everyone hopefully knows what their own desires are. Everyone knows what they're repressing. It's not that they didn't know, oh, I never knew that I had this desire. Everyone knows. What this person goes on to saying is, everything that has been suppressed, the pain and all of that, is sitting there as he calls them imprints. They're these little coded messages that are sitting there. And one may not be very aware right away, because we deal with 90% of our activities, we deal with the conscious side of things. But in the big issues of life, it's the subconscious that pops up. Okay, I don't want to get this too psychological because I'm not an expert at it, but it's the subconscious, and we have to find out what that subconscious is. With a little help from persons who know, one may have a sense of what that subconsciousness is, although one may not be fully consciously aware, oh, that is what it is. But by checking how one behaves in certain testing situations, one knows how the subconscious has acted. So that is those are something one needs to be aware, or the common language is be present to noticing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I was just thinking about, like, when we chant many share, right, that they never knew that they had these inside. I am also saying for myself. So that's how, like, I'm not aware what am I repressing. So yeah, your answer makes sense, Prabhu, definitely.
So our shelter is Chetodarpana Marjanam. The word Cheta, generally we say, is the mind. I've come to appreciate it as the subconscious mind. That is where things are hidden, and that is what we need to clean. Because in a conscious mind, you ask anybody, should we be humble? And the answer is, yeah, we should be very humble. How humble? Like a straw on the street. Excellent. Fantastic answer. And when you are actually put in a situation where that humility has to manifest, some other demon with his head comes up: pride, anger, frustration, sabotaging, all of that shows up. And that's sitting in the Cheta. That is what needs to get cleaned by the chanting of the holy name.
Yeah, Prabhu, actually this answer is being reiterated by you for me. So it's a
Well,
big
not for you. I know it very well because I have a doctorate in it.
Thank you, Prabhu. It makes a lot of sense. Thank you so much. But when, oh, when? That's only the thing.
By Krishna's mercy, Ramachandra's grace, somehow.
Sorry, Prabhu. Your subconscious thing kind of raised another question for me.
I was waiting for you.
So, what is this subconscious? You're relating that to basically contaminated consciousness. And when we generally talk about contaminated consciousness, it's essentially the adulteration with the modes of material nature. But in the hierarchy that Krishna is presenting, like the senses, mind, intelligence, and then there is the ego factor. Is it the sum total of all of these, or what do we kind of refer to as subconscious?
Two different models, two different nomenclatures or classifications.
Okay.
Since we're on this one, I was talking of generally we know as the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. Conscious mind is one where we do just the normal things in life, and the subconscious is the one where the deep impressions, values, pains, all of that are sitting, that we are not aware. That's why it's called subconscious. We're not aware of them, but they are the ones that manifest when certain I don't want to put this language here, but we call them triggers. Something is triggered, we say, right? Simple thing, someone said something and we know that that's a trigger because it takes us back into past where we can remember someone like this said like that to me many years ago, blah blah. So that what we are not aware of is the subconscious. So generally, from now coming to this classification, where Krishna doesn't necessarily say this level, that level, generally use the word mana cheta in different contexts. So sometimes just the way the word atma has so many different meanings, it means the body, it means the mind, it means the soul. Sometimes it means the composite of all the senses in the mind. So sometimes the nomenclature itself has different applications. So if you think of it as the composite with false ego or the bodily conception of life, that is also the cheta. Because all issues arise from this bodily conception of life.
Mm-hmm.
We say I and mine. That is the where the cheta is the sense of I and mine.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Prabhu. Thank you.
All right. Oh, it's 11:18 anyway. Sorry. Hare Krishna. Sita Ram Lakshman Hanuman ji ki jai ho. Srila